everybody, welcome to Board Game Breakfast. My name is Tom Vassell, and I am so excited. I'm excited for a lot of reasons, but we'll start with the most exciting is because just hours ago, I got off of the Dice Tower Cruise 2016. That was our first cruise that we ran, and folks, it's the best convention I've ever been to. It was the best experience. It was better than almost any two other conventions of the year combined. It was even better than Dice Tower Convention. 400 people plus, like 420 people came on the cruise, including me and my family, and Sam and his family, and Z, and Jason, and Kenny, and Rob Searing, and just a whole pile of, even some of you came, and it was just an amazing experience. We had a couple rooms on the ship where we were able to play games. We had game shows. Just lots of open gaming, but then just lots of just going around and seeing things on the cruise. I really liked how there was a lot of couples there. It was a very family-friendly atmosphere. There was so many people there, and it was super casual and relaxed and fun. We had the most people percentage come to our game shows and live shows than any other convention. We got to go see things in Cozumel, Mexico, and spend time around the ship, and we all ate dinners together. Folks, we will be announcing in January the Dice Tower Cruise 2017, and we're going to do the same thing all over again and try to make it even better. Later on this week, we'll have some blogs from Jason where he'll be going around and showing things on the ship, and it was just an amazing experience, and we hope that you guys, some of you, can consider coming with us next year, because if you want hands-on experience of meeting other people who have just a really fun time playing board games or the Dice Tower staff, that's your best way for sure. And you can just have a relaxing, fun time with tons of food. I must stop eating now for like a month or something. Okay, so that's one thing that I'm excited about. Another thing I'm excited about is it's the end of the year. So there's lots of things coming. Our end of the year lists are going to start this week, and we have a lot of different things coming. There was not many videos last week. Rob did some live stuff with his family, and Chaz put up some stuff. But for the most part, there wasn't much. That ends today. Well, actually, it ends yesterday. There was already a pile of videos up yesterday. We are back, baby. And there's just a lot of cool videos coming. I'm really excited about those. And the third reason I'm excited is because in January, we do our fundraiser. Now, each year we've done a Kickstarter for the Dice Tower. Most of our funds come from this Kickstarter, and so we give out different promos to people who back the Kickstarter. But what we are trying to do is we're trying to get people to say, hey, do you like what we do at the Dice Tower? Then we're asking that you support us each year. And so that's coming up this year. But this year, we're moving to Indiegogo, which we're doing it for several reasons. And I'll explain those as time goes by. But one is that you will be able to pledge multiple times if you want to get different things. It will be a better checkout experience. You'll be able to use PayPal. And so in all, we hope that it's a much cooler experience, but we're going to certainly need to get the word out, because most people are going to think Kickstarter. Well, no, we're doing Indiegogo. So we'll try to make it really obvious. We'll put that link out, and that's going to be going live at the very beginning of January. I'll give an exact date and time as we get closer, but suffice it to say, I am just off camera here. I already have boxes of cool promos for that, and there are many more on the way. And so either way, we hope that you enjoy the Dice Tower. All right, let's get to the news. What's happening in the game news this week? Well, Casual Game Revolution, which is a website and magazine dedicated to promoting casual games, they have a new part to their website which has a map of game conventions. And there's like a spreadsheet and stuff. You can edit it, but you can go look, and they already have a ton of game conventions there. Even some fairly small ones on there. So if you're looking for a game convention near you, it's a very useful tool to have. Yellow has announced King of Tokyo Power-Up. Now you might be confused because King of Tokyo Power-Up already exists. Well, this is King of Tokyo Power-Up for the second edition. So they'll change some monsters. So there's new power-up cards for those new monsters that match the way the cards look like in the game, and the new King of New York power-up cards. And there's also ones for even the two old monsters. And it also adds the giant panda. So if you want him in your games, you can get him through this too. Now, interestingly enough, it looks like there's only power-up cards, one set. King of New York came with 2 power-up cards for you, these. One that could be used in King of Tokyo and one that could be used in King of New York. This one looks like it can only be used in King of Tokyo, which is a little odd. I thought that they would do the reverse and have them both be able to be used in both sets. Just a little odd. So who knows? Fantasy Flight Games has announced a new dice pack for Mansions of Madness because Fantasy Flight Games never gives you enough dice in games. Well, technically, they give you enough. You just got to pass them around the table over and over and over again. So anyway, so surprise, the new pack of dice you need to get. Indie Boards and Cards has released Aeon's End. I've reviewed that game. It is a cooperative fantasy game where you're all working together, deck building to fight one big giant, fantasy being that's different each game that's going to smash a village. Mayday Games has announced Isle of Monsters. The artwork for this game is pretty cool looking. It's a set collection family style game. Steve Jackson has released the Batman animated dice game. This is nothing really new. This is kind of a reworking of their Zombies game, and I think they made a hunting version of it. There's lots of different versions. This one is mildly different. I believe there's special powers for some of the different characters that are in the Batman animated universe, which is one of the greatest cartoons ever made. So there's that. When I was at the Dice Tower Cruise, Chris and Looney from Looney Labs was there, and they were showing off the different games from the Pyramid Arcade, which is an amazing thing. I have it right here. But they also showed me the new Math Flux, so I had a chance to play that. I talked about it last week. It's very Fluxish in the way it plays, but there's also rules in place that let you multiply and add numbers to get to the goals at the end, which makes it much more intriguing to me. And I also got to play a prototype of the upcoming Zendo this year. Zendo is one of my favorite games that they ever used the pyramids, but this one is going to change it and have other shapes besides pyramids. Zendo is a logic-style game, which is just an amazing thing. I can't wait to see this new version that's coming out in 2017. In an interview done with Steve Kimball, Steve Kimball was tasked from Fantasy Flight Games, and he basically was a studio that broke off from Fantasy Flight Games called Wind Rider Games. And Wind Rider Games was going to take Euro games and publish them, so kind of to separate the fantasy games and the Fantasy Flight and the Euro games. And they started off basically by doing a bunch of Reiner Knizia games. They did Tigers and Euphrates and Samurai. And so, but now Fantasy Flight has acquired Z-Man Games, and so in this interview he kind of casually dropped it, but basically Wind Rider Games was here and gone in less than a year and is now part of Z-Man Games. So it looks like, as far as I can tell from reading this, that it's going to be Fantasy Flight with that kind of fantastical or adventure style games or future sci-fi, whatever. And then we have Z-Man Games where you'll see the Euro style games, Pandemic obviously, but other games in that line. That's what it seems to be right now. Load was a controversial Kickstarter that came last year, but it's finally coming to stores now in January. So we'll see if the game can overcome that controversy. Restoration Games. This is a company that started from Justin Jacobson and Rob Daviau, where they are basically going back and taking older games and they're going to like rework them and republish them and revamp them. This is neat. First of all, Restoration Games logo it's like in the top logos for a game company that I've ever seen. In fact, each of their logos, whoever's doing their logo work is just incredibly good. But they've announced the first 3. Okay, so we have Stop Thief. This was originally a game from 1979 with a kind of electronic component. Indulgence, which is a reprint of Dragon Master. This is a trick-taking game that came out in 1981 with some pretty bad-looking artwork. So the new Indulgence theme to that sounds fun, and I'm always a big fan of trick-taking games. And Downforce, or I can't read my handwriting there, but Downforce, I think is the word there that I've written. Anyway, that's a remaking of Top Race, which is a Wolfgang Kramer game that came out in 1996. It was actually remade several times into different various Formula D, and different themes were put on top of it. So, hey, this is exciting. I really can't wait to see these games when they come out. Whitleypedia has done several very popular games recently, and they just announced Space Freaks, which on basis of the cover alone, I want this game. Cover is glorious for some reason or other, but it's about, building freaks and then having them go into a an arena and fighting. So I don't know. I like the theme, but I don't know. There's just something about that cover. Okay, well, that is the regular news. Let's go to Suzanne to look at our crowdfunding news.
Happy breakfast, everybody. I'm going to do something a little bit different this week. To be honest, it's a little bit slow in the crowdfunding world right now because, we're headed into the end of the year and we're just past convention season where there was a lot of marketing blitz and things like that. So there's just not a ton for me to choose from right now. And to that point, it's clear that some of you are curious about how I select the projects that I choose to show in this segment. So I thought I'd use my time today to bring a little transparency to that process. First of all, when I'm looking at a project, I am absolutely thinking, is this something I like? Is it a game that I want to play? Is it a product that I want to own? So without a doubt, my personal preferences play a role in whether or not I cover a project. So anybody who's watched this segment knows that I love card games and I love cute games. So you see a lot of those here. Now, to be fair, there's a lot of those types of games in the crowdfunding world in general, so keep that in mind. On the other hand, I don't care for the horror genre of games just in general, so you don't see me cover a lot of those here. Is that fair to horror games? No, it's not, and I understand that. On the flip side of that card, though, when I do cover a horror game, there's probably something extra special about it because I wanted to include it. And having your biases or your personal preferences influence the content that you make, I think is pretty normal, to be honest, but I absolutely try to balance my personal preferences with thinking about what you as an audience would be interested in seeing. And I guarantee you, in any given week, I am covering a project that I have zero personal interest in, but there's something unique or compelling about it that I think you would like. So I want to make sure to highlight that so that I'm showing a breadth of projects that are available in the crowdfunding world for us. But beyond preferences, when I'm looking at a project, I'm actually thinking about the campaign itself as well. I personally have backed almost 300 game projects over the last few years, and I've spent a lot of time getting to know the industry and understanding the process behind making a game. So I am looking at projects essentially for red flags, things that might indicate that the project could have problems down the line, because I never want to recommend a project that you end up backing and then you don't enjoy the process or don't enjoy the end product. I'd feel bad about that. I do feel bad about that when that happens. So I try to be very careful about that. For example, there was a project a couple of months ago that was really cool, but the crowdfunder hadn't picked a printing partner. And that is a huge warning sign because the printing process is such a major factor in publishing a game. The fact that the campaign owner didn't do that and didn't really seem to show that they understood why that was a problem when I talked to them about it meant I didn't feel comfortable covering their game here, even though the game looked cool. Along those lines, if a publisher has a history of problematic campaigns where their communication is poor or their projects are delivering 6, 12, 24 or more months late, I don't always feel comfortable highlighting those projects here. Not because you won't get a game and not because it won't be a good game, but ultimately, I do think that when you are crowdfunding something, you are part of a process, and I want that process to be a positive thing as well. And when there are so many campaigns to choose from, that may be a deciding factor. On the flip side, when a publisher has a great history and a great reputation for running smooth campaigns and delivering excellent games at the end of it, then I'm probably going to give them some extra consideration on whether or not I want to cover them in this segment. Now, does that lead to a lot of seasoned publishers getting coverage? Absolutely. But on the other side of that, I make a real effort to find hidden gems and first-time publishers and designers that are trying to fulfill their dream through crowdfunding. But I just give their pages a really heavy assessment on whether or not I think that they have done their research and that they are fully prepared for all the ups and downs of running a crowdfunding campaign. Thankfully, a lot do demonstrate that, and it's awesome when I find those and get to highlight them here. Another factor that you might not have realized is a big consideration for me is just logistics. You might think I have a lot of early access or preview access to campaigns, and that is far from the truth. The reality is I have almost zero ability to schedule my segments ahead of time. So I'm just out there seeing what pops up and then trying to make it all work. Unfortunately, what this leads to is sometimes I end up not being able to cover a project simply because I run out of time. This is especially true in the kind of mid-year because there are almost dozens of projects that launch in a given week, and I just can't cover them all. So even good projects get left on the cutting room floor sometimes, and that's unfortunate. It's also a reminder to you that just because I don't cover a project, that's by no means a condemnation or an indication that I don't think it's a cool project. It could just be I ran out of time. So there you have it, just a little bit of insight into my process behind the selection of projects for the crowdfunding roundup. Hopefully some of you found that interesting on some level. And I also want to say that I truly appreciate your support. I appreciate the feedback, both positive and constructive, because it shows that you're watching and that you care. Next week, I promise I will be back with some new projects to highlight. And until then, I hope you have a wonderful week.
Hi, welcome to Miniatures World. Now, I know some of you are probably thinking, this is usually on Throat Punch Lunch. What's it doing here on Board Game Breakfast? Well, after doing 109 episodes of Painting Miniatures 101, I think I've given all the tips I probably possibly can. And especially with my live show on every Thursdays where I paint different games and people ask for tips and stuff like that, I think that's where we're going to keep our Painting 101 is with my live show. So we decided to bring over Miniature World here to Board Game Breakfast. It gives us a wider spectrum where we can do a lot more things, looking at miniatures in games of old, all the way to miniatures in games about to come out, and have some painting in there too. We'll talk about a variety of things, and it gives a bigger spectrum and we can cover more ground. So for all you people who have supported Painting Miniatures 101, I want to thank you so much. It's been a real pleasure doing it, but we're going forward with something different and something new, and something we can really expand on. And I think we're going to have a lot of fun going forward. So until next time, this is Rob Orn, and we'll see you soon.
Hey, this is Mike with the Board Game Makeover. One of my family favorite games to play is called Splendor. In one of my previous episodes, I took Splendor and created a travel-sized version of it. And we love Splendor because of mostly the very cool components in the poker chips. Let me tell you what I don't like about Splendor. I might as well be playing a game that has absolutely no theme called Splendor, and the cards would look like this, and the poker chips when I'm playing pretty much look like this. It's just colors, buying colors, and doing the strategy thing, which is awesome in this game. But really, there's no theme. So that's what I want to do. I want your ideas for a theme that works with Splendor that's better than what came in the box. And I'm going to create that theme. And I'm going to create the Splendor game based on the theme that you give me, a theme that makes sense and is a lot more fun to help you become more engaged into the game. I will look at all the suggestions and I'll pick one. And I will create Splendor, a fan-made edition, using your theme that I pick. I will showcase it on my episode here, and then I'll send it to you free of charge. That's right. My Christmas gift to one of you is Splendor with a really good theme based on your idea. The way I pick this will be very subjective. It'll be based on what I think would be a good theme as well. Not saying your ideas are not good, just saying that I'm going to pick one based on what I can do to it and how fast I can get it done. Splendor is an awesome game without a theme. Thanks for watching the Board Game Makeover. We'll see you next time.
All right, now we didn't have a lot of stuff that came out last week, but that's okay. We have a pile of stuff that we're going to have coming out this week. You've already seen several stuff go up yesterday, including our top 10 lunchtime games and a few reviews and things. And this week, you're going to see our top games of 2016. So we're excited about that. And also a couple other lists from 2016, but there's also several reviews. And Sam is going to be doing Throat Punch Launch. The Dice Tower itself, we're going to put up the live show that we did at on the Dice Tower cruise. Hopefully it worked out and I got the audio came out okay. But there's just a lot of really, a lot of videos. I'm just really excited. Lots of cool stuff coming your way. And if you like all that, you can find out more. The different podcasts are going to show up at dicetowernetwork.com. So you can check out all the different podcasts in our network. So that's it. We're in December. Christmas is coming. Let's keep going on.
Oh, hey, Chaz Marler of Pair of Dice Paradise here, back fresh from another day of gaming with friends, during which a member of our game club proposed playing a card game that they brought with them. Kind of a recent new classic, but one that the rest of the gaming group actually hadn't played yet. Well, always eager to try something new, we jumped at the opportunity, and before we knew it, cards were dealt, and we were elbow deep in a game of hang on. Let's not fade this in all the way. Let's just keep it there, because this particular game, well, it didn't quite mesh with what our group had. That is to say, we found it to be a little bit. I mean, there was some. The game sucked. It sucked. The game in question bombed miserably with the group, to the point where, after a while, we started experimenting out of frustration, trying to find ways to improve it by implementing homemade variations, such as, playing with a different number of cards per player, playing with a different number of players, and playing with some of your cards revealed publicly while keeping some hidden, playing the parts of your turns out of order, even instituting a bot with scripted turns that everyone played against. And in doing so, interestingly, nothing worked. No, it still sucked. However, the entire process led to an interesting discussion about house rules and variations. Specifically, just how much can you vary a game's core rules before it technically becomes a different game? With all of the variations and house rules that we were experimenting with, were we even playing the game that we started playing in the first place anymore? These questions were pondered well into the evening, long after the game that sparked the discussion had been put away across the room under something heavy. But the night was not a total loss, because it raised some interesting questions that I'm able to discuss here with you now. I mean, have you ever felt the need to fix a game that you've owned just in order to make it even playable? And I'm not talking about just adding a house rule or two, such as, drawing tiles at the end of your turn instead of at the beginning while playing Carcassonne. No, I'm talking about substantial, big rules changes, additions, and other massive alterations. If so, I'd be interested to hear what games you've fixed and what you did to fix them in the comments below, and whether they were even the same game anymore afterwards. Let's discuss, and we'll see where the conversation leads, and we'll see if it's even the same conversation anymore afterwards. Ooh.
Hello everyone, it's lunchtime! Today we're going to talk about King Domino, a new game by Bruno Cathala, published by Blue Orange Games, with artwork by Cyril Bouquet, for ages 8 and up, 2 to 4 players, in about 15 minutes.
I really enjoyed this game when we played it at Gen Con. We got that sneak peek.
Yes, thank you Game Boy Geek for letting us get the chance to play your game, and we found some local copies, so we now have our own. So basically, if anyone knows the old classic Dominoes, it's basically a fun, cool twist on it. You're building a basically around your castle, and you're trying to match similar landscapes. So fields to fields, the tile that you pick, one of the terrains has to match existing terrain on your tile. Trying to create a 5x5 grid where you're going to try to score the most points with there's little crowns on some of the terrains, and those crowns are going to give you points based on how many of that type of terrain are connected to those crowns. And basically most points at the end of placing all the tiles wins.
One little twist with this, the player who gets to pick first is the one who went last in the previous round, or previous tile selection phase. So that lets you kind of figure out, do I want to take this tile now, but then go last later? Gives you a bit of strategizing as well.
I like the idea that you have your own little kind of castle and then you're building around it so you can kind of see what everyone's up to and decide, no, I'm going to go this way. But then you could also take a simpler route for maybe younger kids who want to try it, so they may not want to have all that strategy. So overall, I think it's a really fun game. Colleagues can play. Might even get 2 games in at lunch. Who knows? So thumbs up from us. Definitely try this one out at lunch. We'll see you next time. Bye.
Hey everybody! Now someone brought this to attention. I was someone asked me a question in our live show that we put out this week, and they said, what games would you guys want under your tree for Christmas? And I said, I don't really, need any games. I'm perfectly content. I don't want any games for Christmas. I want cookies and whatever. I don't remember exactly what I said. And then I said something to someone else, and someone had asked me if I was not as enthusiastic about games as I used to be. And this is possibly because because I'm saying that I don't want new games. And I'm also kind of trying to talk down, why are we always talking about future games? Why are we not talking about these great games we can play now? It's kind of like a shtick that I've been pushing recently. And my collection, I'm not really growing the collection. I'm simply just, when I add a new game, I get rid of one. And of course, I'm doing a lot of more negative reviews these days. So it can seem like I'm not as enthusiastic about gaming. And what could be the reasons for that? Well, one, talking about board games is now my job. It's something I do all the time. It's work to talk about board games in a sense. So maybe that will make me like, I'm going to work, right? That could be one reason. Another thing is, am I getting jaded? The more and more board games I play, the more it's kind of like, come on, prove it to me. I've seen them all. How's this one going to be any different than the rest? Or maybe it's just that games are getting worse as time goes by. That last one's just simply not true. Games are certainly getting better. And so I have to look at myself and say, Now see, what I've always tried to do is I try to, I'm very excited. When I play a game that I love, I'm just like, wah! I just love to talk about games that I'm very enthusiastic about. And when I don't like a game, I'm like, oh man. And there's a lot of games that fall in the middle of that category. They're like, this is pretty fun. And it can seem kind of like, yes, there's Jaded Vass looking at these again. And I don't mean to be that way. I've often thought, I gotta be careful. I always joke, and it's happened, right? At my game store, Cool Stuff in Hollywood, there was, a couple of years ago, we did raffles for a tabletop day or something, and I won something. I had the winning ticket. Everyone was like, boo. And I gave it to somebody else because it's kind of weird that the guy who gets all the games is going to win a free game. And I understand that. And it was good-natured booing. But I never want to be that person like, well, I have all these games and yet I want more. And I also don't want to ever fall into that category where I always want games. But if you think my enthusiasm is dying, well, then think again. So I think maybe I do need to be more enthusiastic when I'm talking about games and be more pumped about games. I'm trying not, I didn't want to be like, well, this is Tom Vassell. He's the hype machine. It's like there's so many people out there who are hyping games. I'm going to be like giving you my honest opinion. And I will give you my honest opinion. But maybe when I like the games, maybe I need to show more enthusiasm outwardly. Maybe I'm getting calmer because I'm getting older. I don't know. But it is something that, more than one person mentioned this to me. And I was like, oh man, I don't want to come across as that person who's like, yeah, gaming, been there, done that, because I have not been there. 2017 is coming and I cannot wait. 2016 overall might have been a smidge not as cool gaming, with new games that came out as 2015. Maybe. Although there's some amazing games. When you see my top 10 this year for 2016, I really, really like those games. And I had a chance to play several of them this week on the cruise. And for conventions, gaming is amazing. I mean, the conventions are just exploding. For the hobby itself, it's fantastic. The hobby is more inclusive. It is most definitely expanding, and more people are playing. Casual gaming is growing, which is something I'm a big fan of. We're seeing cool party games. We're seeing international scene. I went to Essen, there's just people all over the place. So gaming is exploding, and it's just such a cool hobby to be part of. And if I ever give the impression that it's not a cool hobby, well, I apologize, because I love it. Now, don't get me wrong, I love to talk about other things. I like to talk about food, I like to talk about, TV and music and, all sorts of nerdy type things. But games were my passion. That's why I started. I reviewed board games because I loved talking about them. And even though it is now my job, I still love talking about them. It is a really fun thing to do, so I will work on showing my enthusiasm more and attempt to not become a jaded gamer. Let's hope.
Hi there, my name is Nils Cyril's Brettspiele, and today we are talking about Turkey. No, we are talking about Istanbul from Pegasus. My favorite part on Istanbul is easy to explain. So the fact that this is a variable board is super. So every time you build your board new, and the ways you have to go from A to B to C and to D, and the passes you can do to win the game are every single game totally new. It's very unlikely that a 4x4 grid is always the same. I mean, how are the odds that you create it again and again? Even if there are some passes that are useful and some not, but if it's here and here, the way is far too long, but it's here and here, then it's great. So the variable board in this game is brilliant. It is exactly what it should be. A thing that I don't like on it, and I will point out too, but the first thing is, if you figured out a good pass, for an example, selling goods, making money, or gambling and making money, buying rubies, back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. This is a combination that is super strong. I know it says in the rulebook you should not have 8 and 9 right next to each other, which I have, so you should take the 8 and put it here, and instead of, and the fountain has always be in the middle. But anyway, even then, this machine still The other thing works. I wanted to mention, just as a fun fact on top of what I don't like, is all the pictures in this game are dominated by males. There's not even a single female person in it. Even in the promotion stuff here, male, 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 just to let you know. That was my personal favorite part on Istanbul, what I really like on it, and the don't like it to take it too serious. Anyway, see you next week here on the Board Game Breakfast. Nils, Cyril's Brettspiele, and have fun. Enjoy a little bit of gaming.
Hey, it's time to look at the shelf and see some games that I'm keeping on the shelves here. And so we're seeing some games that are new here. We have Terraforming Mars, which is from this year, as well as Cry Havoc, one from Stronghold Games and one from Portal Games. And I really like both of them. A great Euro-style game. Engine building, really fun about Terraforming Mars, and the Cry Havoc, where you are basically stripping a planet. So I guess this is a sequel to Terraforming Mars? Who knows? Time Stories, of course, just an amazing game. Love it. It's been a while since the new module's coming out. I'm itching to play it. As soon as that new module comes out, boom, that's getting played. Roll for the Galaxy is a super fun dice game from Rio Grande Games. I still actually have Race for the Galaxy on my shelves, but I do like Roll a little bit better because, hey, dice. Arcadia Quest, yeah, this is like a shelf of amazing games, the ones we're looking at today. Arcadia Quest, wow, do I like this game. This doesn't get as much love as Blood Rage does, but I actually like it better than Blood Rage. I love the combat. I love the silly things that happen in this game. I love the leveling up. It's a quick, simple, fun, fast combat system. Duel of Ages. I'm like one of the few people in the world, I think, who likes this game, but I love the different people throughout time fighting each other. If you've never heard of this game, it is not for everyone, right? This is definitely not a game everyone's going to love, but I love just all the different characters and the weird things that can happen in it. Dragon and Flagon is another new one from Stronghold. I don't know how long this one has on my shelves for now, but I really do enjoy it. It's this 8-player kind of party-style game, program movement, throwing mugs, pulling rugs, pushing tables into each other, so lots of silly fun. So, 2 Stronghold games, a cool mini or not, Portal, Asmodee, Rio Grande, some diversity, but just these are amazingly cool games.
Hi guys. The European Union has its own law enforcement agency, Europol, and in an effort to let the public help in catching the biggest criminals, they have released an unusual advent calendar. Behind every door you don't find any chocolates, but the names and faces of the most dangerous criminals from the different countries of the EU. Every day a new video is released, giving the public a new name and face to look out for. This week I am playing a game that puts you in the shoes of one of the most notorious killers of the 19th century. Or let you and your friends work together to try and catch him. This week I am playing Letters from Whitechapel. In Letters from Whitechapel, one player takes on the role of Jack the Ripper, who tries to take 5 victims and then make it home safely. The other players are police officers that need to work together to try and catch him. The game is set in the poor and dreary Whitechapel district in London in the year 1888. The game is played over 4 nights. The game board has a lot of numbers on it, and Jack keeps track of his whereabouts by writing his location on his movement sheet. He is never visible on the board, but what the police officers do know is where his victim is, and that means where Jack is at that very moment. But by the time they get to the crime scene, he is already a couple of steps away, so they try to find a trail. Every turn, police officers can ask one of 2 questions. The first one is, has Jack the Ripper been on this adjacent number during this night? When yes, you put a transparent marker on it, giving you a breadcrumb, a trail of where Jack the Ripper went this night. But if you're wrong, you get nothing. The other question is, if Jack the Ripper is here this very moment, then you apprehend him. When you're right, the game is immediately over and the good guys won. But if you're wrong, you know nothing. Letters from Whitechapel is tense. I prefer it as a 2-player game where one person is Jack and the other person is the entire police force. But of course you can add more players and divide the police officers. There is so much more going on compared to the classic game Scotland Yard. It is so exciting and makes me want to play it right this very moment. A big recommendation from me for Letters from Whitechapel. Thanks for watching. My name is Dave Luza. See you next week.
Well, Dice Tower, it's been quite a year. I did my top 100. I played Star Trek Ascendancy at an actual Star Trek convention. I got a D&D character to 14th level. I moved to Dubai and found a great new board gaming group. I ate a pandemic cake. And I played Impulse. I didn't manage to play Puerto Rico in Puerto Rico. And I didn't finish my game Stonehenge Revenge. But there's always next year. Indeed, you could say 2016 was the most important year in gaming since the last one. Thank you, Dice Tower, and have fun gaming.
Well, we're looking at another of the last in the new trilogy of upgraded components from Stonemaier Games. This is the Gadget Guide. And this is the one I think that I would recommend the least, although you might have games that can use it. This one here has like data chips, so these can be used for various things. My only problem with these data chips is, well, first of all, they look like a Game Boy. But secondly, I don't know, they just don't look as good. Whoever painted them, well, it looks kind of like I painted them. Because essentially, whoever painted the black screens, it was a very quick slop job. You can see that the lines are coming up. So, I don't know, there's not a lot of games I would use these in anyway. Then there's little lanterns or energy cores or whatever you might have. So there might be some game that these could be used for. They're certainly cooler than yellow cubes. These are really nice. These little wrenches and screwdrivers, I just need to think of a game to use them in. These are weapons. Some people use these for wounds. Some use these for ammunition. Maybe the new Doom game, these would be cool to use in. I'm not sure on that. We got med packs. Now med packs can be used in a lot of games. You could use these for health. And then some sort of computer screen. This is like a little terminal. I could see these. This could be used kind of like as a thing in like a where you're going through and there's space and stuff. like I said, this is the stuff, like, I'm really struggling to think of what games to use any of this stuff in, honestly. They're cool pieces, and the med packs, yeah, you could use those in a lot of games, maybe for health points or just for having, there are some games with med packs. And the ammunition, same thing. But this other stuff, yeah, it's okay. Like I said, I wish these were painted better. And so, but you might be interested in this. This might be something that appeals to you. So that is the Gadget Guide from Stonemaier Games.
I once came third in a Battle of the Primates arm wrestling jamboree, losing in the semis to a bonobo named Bono. I once punched a horse so hard, it died. I once watched every episode of Game of Thrones in one sitting, back to back. Sorry. These are lies, obviously. The first one never happened. The second one is horrible, though I do not trust horses. I don't like Game of Thrones, alright, sue me. I also don't like Star Wars, I don't like Harry Potter, and I don't like Lord of the Rings. But I love the X-Files. Seriously, I just don't really care about a bunch of wizards trying to throw a magic bracelet into a volcano on Mars. Or whatever. But top secret undercover mission about alien hybrid bees? I'm listening. I really enjoy lying, which in hindsight is probably a strange thing to say, but I do. It's funny. Not malice or hurtful lies, just, telling your friend his car is on fire, or pretending you've forgotten your sister's birthday. Stuff like that. I think it's funny. But I was playing a game recently when someone said to me, I just don't like games where you have to lie a lot. Sorry. Which made me think. Board games are one of the only examples I can think of where lying is acceptable, depending on the game. Where lying is rewarded. Where lying can be the whole point. And I fall strongly into the camp that says, that's fine, and that is just harmless fun. But I've read and heard numerous times people talking about how lying shouldn't be a skill we're trying to practice. So in the comments below, let me know what you think about lying in games. Not cheating, just lying. Thank you.
In North America, holiday gift giving is a pretty big deal. And whether you celebrate Christmas, Hanukkah, or any of the other 29 various cultural and religious holidays that fall around the end of the year, odds are good that you're going to be giving gifts to family, loved ones, and other important people in your life. Depending on the size of your social circle and just how much you celebrate, you could be giving a lot of gifts. And board games are one way that you can put the fun and joy back into gift giving. If you're buying for a family, a game can be a gift for the entire family, not just one member of it. So instead of buying an action figure for your nephew and an iTunes gift card for your niece, or vice versa, plus that cute wine rack you saw for your sister and her wine-loving husband, you could give one game that the entire family can enjoy. And that game's not just more stuff cluttering up your sister's house, that is hours of family entertainment and bonding. And that's the real gift that you're giving your sister. And if you absolutely have to give a gift to every individual in the family, there are plenty of small games so that you can do that without breaking the bank. Here at Snakes and Lattes, we call them breadstick games. Hobbyists call them filler games, but whatever you call them, games like Anomia, No Thanks, Coloretto, Coup, Saboteur, and Iota pack a whole lot of fun into a tiny little box that lets the recipient know you're thinking about them at this time of year. You may find yourself giving a gift to someone that you don't know very well. Maybe your office holiday party is doing a Yankee swap and you don't know exactly who's going to take the gift home. Or maybe your son's new girlfriend is coming over to family dinner and you don't know what she likes. Well, games can help you there too. Now, I'm not suggesting that you buy Caverna or Star Wars Rebellion for a total stranger, but there are some sorts of games that generally have very wide appeal and go over well with everybody. At Snakes and Lattes, we find that physical games like Ghost Splits or Vertigo are successes with practically every table we give them to. Another surefire way to go is party games. Lots of games like Say Anything and Snake Oil and the Game of Things very popular here in the cafe. And if you think you might maybe be giving to someone who turns out to be a hobbyist, there are party games like Codenames and Dixit that have even won the coveted Spiel des Jahres prize. So before you head out to do your holiday gift buying, check out our holiday buying guide at www.snakesandlattes.com/something something something. You can read, I have faith. And that will make suggestions to help you buy the perfect game for anybody on your list. Do you have a favorite go-to, I give this every holiday game? If so, post about it in the comments below. And remember, no matter what you choose to celebrate this holiday season, everyone at Snakes wants you and your family to have a healthy and happy holiday, and especially a game-filled New Year.
And that's it for another board game breakfast. Yeah, I'm excited. December is always an exciting month for the Dice Tower. That was a great cruise to come off of, but there's still more cool things. I'll be doing a live Q&A today at 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So if you have questions or whatever you want to just talk to me, come see me then. And you know, that's about it. There's going to be lots of cool videos and several are, normally Board Game Breakfast is the only thing to go up on the Monday when I post it, even though today's Tuesday. So I usually post that, and then the weekend review. There's no weekend review because we didn't review stuff last week. But there's going to be the live Q&A, but Chaz has a couple things going up, and I think there's a couple other videos that are going up today. So there's videos going up today, and then tomorrow, All right, well, I need to get going. Guys, if you came on a cruise, thank you. If you didn't, thank you anyway. We love you guys that you watch our show. Until next time, I'm Tom Vassell, and this has been Board Game Breakfast.
Thanks for watching Board Game Breakfast. Tune in each week for your daily dose of gaming goodness with Tom Vassell and all the gang. Until next time, I'm Eric Summerer, and you've been watching Board Game Breakfast, a Dice Tower production, sponsored by Cool Stuff Inc., an amazing place to buy board games. Cool stuff in stock at coolstuffinc.com.